Hello, everyone. Welcome to the December installment of Carmine Street Magics. As usual, we have wonderful feature readers who are scheduled for today. We have Marcia Karp, Irina Mashinski, and as always, we are going to have an open mic. We'll start with an open mic, a few readers before we move on to our first feature. And our first open mic reader is Robbi Nestor.
Hi, I'm going to attempt to share my screen now. There we go. Right. The poem is called Dancing White Egret. It's after a photograph by Philip Brouillet. Among the reeds, the great white egret raises his wings, and I understand at once why he's called great. Not just his size, the way his whole body aspires to flight. White shreds of clouds tinged with golden light. His feathers spread against the pale blue plate of sky, like the flesh of roasted barramundi. Every bit of him drives the eye up and up, his long neck, muscular as an anaconda, white as the peeling branches of the eucalyptus, upraised needle of the beak, while his legs, jointed as a beetle's, connect him to the ground. He's fish and fowl, air and water, the melding of the elements, embodiment of joy.
Thank you, Robbi. Next open mic reader is Charlotte Innes.
Okay. The Ghost Owl. Early on, someone gave me a doll's tea set. I love the tiny plastic teacups, saucers, teapot, plates, perfect for a midnight feast. We sat in a circle on the floor, sipping water for tea, munching biscuits one kid nicked. We were a rebel island in the brown linoleum sea, in a home that wasn't. When we arrived, my sister, almost 3 and scared, while I, at 4, went along at first, maybe to steady myself. I wasn't sure why we'd come. Did someone tell us our mum had died and that our dad, a man alone, could not take care of 2 small girls? Or so the authorities said, so he told me later. Right now, we whispered our resistance, had to, since the aunts and uncles walked the halls at night. As for the kids, no faces come to mind. I remember soft, excited chirps, a warmth, something hard melting. Of course, an aunt peeked in. What's this? She told us to put the tea set back in the box, then took the box away. I never saw it again. Hurt, afraid to ask, I stashed away all thought of one thing truly mine. A year later, we left that place. My father's friends, 2 brothers, picked us up and drove us home, the real home. A couple moved into one of our 4 rooms with baby and dog. They cared for us while Dad was working. Such scenes pop up like snapshots, except from this one, wisps of pain and pleasure curl like smoke around my thoughts. For just a moment, that little girl and I are one. It's why, after all these years, I feel the urge to cry. For her, for all the children who've been hurt, who don't quite understand how loss piles up inside or why at times, for better or worse, it bursts out unbidden. Like leaking landfill gas that can destroy the earth or help conserve it, toxic memory can twist its bearer into bitterness or courage, enough to face the ghost owl, observing her as prey. Nightly, she must stare it down until it flies away. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, our next open mic reader is Zara Raab.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Charlotte and Robin. Oh, what beautiful poems. I'm moved and touched.
Mm.
This is called, it's very short, Above the Feed and Grain. Man by the name of Joe was murdered when, one drunken winter night, a man named Jim lost it for half an hour. They went quite insane. Poor Jim. He didn't know the value of the life he'd taken in the bar above the old storefront, Ukiah Feed and Grain. The body of the dead was left unclaimed and was consumed in that long season of fire that raged across the hills above the town. Fires not the fault of anyone. It strikes us now, Joe's widow afterward, lonely as she was, said not a word, although she must have heard the oaths they swore, the awful curses riding on the air.
Mm. Thank you, Zara. And our next open mic reader is David Formanek.
Hi, everybody. Well, thank you very much, Anton. Hello, Wendy, Teresa, and everybody. 25 smiles for Susan Medden, partly undercovers. Lobster boat lights rake a cove at dawn. Our cat capsizes her billowy white belly. Their mother watches 9 fox kits wrestling. Goldfinches flock above a wildflower lawn. A red eft reflects scarlet in the dim swamp. First fall snowflakes drift in early dusk. Glistening ice crusts blue shadowed trees. A steaming stew rewards a day of freezing chores. Melting snow reveals hardy flowers. New rain scents a freshly tilled field. Bedrock exposes crystal pockets. Polished marble highlights invite touch. The moon's fat horn spikes a black cloud gap. Palm trees border the arrival runway. Transparent green surf crests in orange sunlight. The mirror shows a half mile of past traffic. Further mountains soar beyond the valley. A city rises over the river shore. Portrait busts adorn the famous library. The hinged lid uncovers brand new watercolors. The curtain rises on a favorite show. A group shakes hands, truly meaning well. A damselfly perches on a swimmer's forehead. An infant nurses, or a toddler nurses. A bare hip arches outside the warm down quilt. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, David. I am now delighted to introduce our first feature reader, Marcia Karp. Marcia Karp's book If by Song was published by Lily Poetry Review Press in 2021 and was New England Poetry Club's Mutton Book Prize finalist in 2022. In addition to If by Song, Marcia has published poems and translations in journals and anthologies in England and America, including the Times Literary Supplement, Harvard Review, Agenda, Literary Imagination, The Guardian, Plowshares, Partisan Review, Penguin Books, Catullus in English, and Petrarch in English, The Word Exchange, Anglo-Saxon Poems and Translations, in translation from Northern, and Joining Music with Reason, Christopher Rick's anthology of poets who read for him at Oxford during his tenure there as professor of poetry. Karp taught literary and editorial matters at Boston University after earning graduate degrees there. Please help me welcome Marcia Karp.
Thank you, Anton and Wendy and Therese, and thank you all. What is left? We think it is new. We are so afraid. We think there has never been, ever been, a thing like our thing, so we are so afraid. Just think, a village rapes a girl, a village burns a man. Here is the maelstrom, here is the horror. People we like are like people we don't. It is our turn to live it and not know what hit us. It is our turn for mayhem that droppeth as rain. It is our turn to cry we are virtue's last bastion, while mayhem and help us turn us into them. She is 12 and they rape that girl over and over. That collar of tire, which then becomes fire, is fitted by many hands to one neck. Nobody taught us. We know how to do it. We shout and we leap for our lives to some standing. It is you. No, not I. Yes. And no, help us. We say that that thing is loosed from another town over. Oh, tut, just think, it is ours and is us. What is left for our thing when havoc's in swing? All against all, first among none. Odd little woman. The odd little woman doesn't know what to do. When asked to partake, she looks round to see whom you might mean and discovers there's no one but her. Though she wants to say yes, she'll only demur. She knows when her best, her fuss is not right. She can't tell if her handshake is limp or too tight. She'd like to be family. She'd like to be friend. She'd settle for species and fears she offends. Yet there's nothing peculiar the others can see. It's gotten so she is embarrassed to be. She'd known joy as a child and remembered it when she was loved and herself then, but not lately again. She'd been loving to love of all kinds, so it grew. Was it me, she wonders, or not, who withdrew? It wasn't her plan to be so alone. Still, she is, like a creature that's fouled its home. It would matter. I was going, it was supposed, to have a child or more who would look in the crook of my arm and wonder. I'd asked, answer the questions by telling a tale of the dragon who'd seized me when I was still young. I was burnt, I might say, or enfanged, and must leave it at that, I was told when I'd ask, supposing a life I might lead. It was I, silly me, who was led by time more than life, I can say. I can say I stayed still and let time more than life have its way through me. No one asked, not the lovers, not after the first, who must have been drawn by the care I took in the hiding. Not doctors or teachers or friends or the usually nosy. Not until Wednesday this week, I came along for the ride with a friend to a man who studies scars and the truncated flesh that holds them. He saw I'd been a child or more, and he let me be part of the day. I got to test the hook, soon to be a hand for my friend. He rolled up my sleeve, placed the sensors, made sure I got that hook to close. That's an old scar, he said. So he saw me and knew it would matter that I was a part of the day. The next two are translations of poems that were written over 2,000 years ago. Brother, multas per gentes frater Catullus. Driven through people and places, I am come to this terrible service, brother, the death gift. Might talk to your ashes, might listen in vain for their voice. Since your life took you from me, seized you, unjust, brother, misery took you from me. Now, as we were taught by our parents, here, I offer my last gift, a death gift. Take it, wrapped only in brotherly tears. And always, my brother, now I have found you, farewell. There once was a man from Verona, Aurelius and Furious, good friends. You'd follow Catullus to earth's ends. Just go to that girl who thinks she's the world, with her 300 men whose service her sending their slop up her hole till she cracks off each pole. If she mentions my name, say she is to blame for the stunned rose that won't bloom again. All occupation. She knew it was love, the twitch of arrival, the twinge on departure. Hours with his name, accepting no rival who'd love her. Her new love's survival was all occupation. She must stay aflame, for he had no part of it, never came to her dead lips for his own lips' revival. So long she kept love for that time-marking man, kept it so well that she mastered the art and dared to discount him. Then new love began. The twitches and twinges, now messily real, to a man who made room in his heart for a love that was sure to be far from ideal. It's showtime. Come on, see the woman who keeps to herself there, right there, the standing place woman. I saw her get kissed and she saw that I saw. He wound up her hair. He commanded her jaw, but she winked as I watched her allow him to brute her. He didn't think if he might or not suit her. There, my dear, she could withstand embrace. One tried behavior to coax her to knowledge. She held out for love. She refused to acknowledge his presence of mind. Only these would she ask, blearing and smearing her. Come, no, go, mask, wear and tear the demanding face woman. The staging was stagnant. One woman alone, still. The one cue for some drama was scrawled on the playbill, get angry. She rued it, but knew it was so. The excitement of rage or the self-keeping woe. Soon here, do you hear? She'll take it ill and give chase. The question. There must have been one who'd have set in my hair daisies. I see now what I hadn't seen then, when my hair with daisies should have been set. A beauty to me, and completeness enough to bring another, enough for a couple to build on. I have to think I would have shied, ducked my head, left him afraid to trust this creature he would crown. Still young, so still tender, he would have stood, would have gathered I was lost, then himself and his daisies up, and left me still wondering if, though there must have been, was there one who'd ever come round? Now I lay me, over and over and over. Baby comes to take on the ogre. She tries the mountain that she dreamt when on rubber sheets she slept. Baby in her big girl bed held the dream as if it said, not fear of something being there, but fear of no one ever near, feared baby. Though not yet knowing life got lived, it was as if she dreamt a gift of future must. Poor baby, could she know how a thing not yet would go? It stayed as truth that dreamt of climb, and then she learnt that life was time, and tried to think she was not meant to be, nor was an isolate. Ogre, ogre, life's near over. Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much, Marcia, for this mesmerizing reading. Really, really beautiful and masterful. Can anyone who would like, please unmute yourself so we can all applaud and express our appreciation. Marcia.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thanks, Marcia.
Thanks, Joyce. I know that voice.
Powerful as always.
Stories.
Great.
Thank you. And please maybe put the link to Eve by Song in the chat so that, please order the books by our readers. It's hard to sell books on Zoom, so we encourage.
I'll just put my email. I hope no one's shy about using it. That would be
Wonderful. Yeah, please do. Okay. So I'm going to mute everyone again, and we'll continue to some more open mic. And our next open mic reader is Harvey Soss. Harvey, are you there? I think we lost Harvey. I see him on the list. All right, we'll come back to him. Chris O'Carroll. Our next open mic reader is Chris O'Carroll.
Thank you, Anton. The Christmas season, the holiday shopping season is upon us. And as I do every year, I'm having very mixed feelings about the season. I've written a lot of pro-Christmas and dissent from Christmas poems. And you'll be able to tell from the title which way I've decided to go today. This poem is titled Bah! Mired deep in winter solstice cold and gloom, craving festivities aglow with cheer, we lose our heads and foolishly assume debt we'll regret all through the coming year. Our budgets of mere Cornish game hen size, and we should choose a dinner fowl to match it, but splurge instead, unthrifty and unwise, to buy a turkey that outweighs Tim Cratchit. We shop like fat cat monarchs from the East, not stocking up on myrrh and frankincense, but flashing quantities of gold, at least, gold cards with rates of fearsome consequence. The season's propaganda tells us we should generously aid our fellow man, but who's got money left for charity? A doornail's what that concept's deader than. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Our next open mic reader is Richard Fein. Richard, are you there? Not seeing Richard.
Okay, can you hear me?
We
Hello?
can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Okay, well, you'll have to hear, I guess.
Is your video not working?
No, I'm the one who's not working. Okay. Reading book 11 of Paradise Lost. On an evening that means a lot to others, Christmas Eve, I am moved to tears by Angel Michael's herbal cures of Adam's eyes, removing a cataract induced by Satan, opening Adam's eyes to the world he is about to enter since he's been expelled from paradise. Milton inventing this visionary moment, though his own eyes have gone dark beyond all help, while Adam is invited to open his. How come I hadn't seen the pity of this moment the time I'd read the poem before, seen Milton's presence in his generous gift to Adam? And now this evening means something further, something other than an evening that means a lot to others. One dearer to me now, because I see Milton anew, hear him anew. The scene stemming from rue and eyebright, myself entranced by the plants Milton employs, found in formulary and psalm. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, and please join us again. Thank you. Our next open mic reader is Alyssa Gillespie.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for this invitation, Anton. I'm really honored to be here. And I'm going to read two sections of a longer poem, which is called Purple Wind. It's a study of themes of memory, time passing, love, longing, and regret. And each of the sections is written in a different poetic form. So I'm reading sections 1 and 4, which are sonnet and a villanelle. In the beginning, there was you. Your smile, your gentle hand that brushed away the night. You painted dawn upon my heart, my mile on mile of desolation, blessed light, its silver edge, its heat, its tender sheen, its promise and fragility long spent, though not forgotten ever, a distant gleam now arches through the years and burns again. And yet the speed of light's too slow, the point of origin too far, and though it leaps across the starry breach, it comes too late. My dearest, take my hand, and in our sleep, let's sketch upon the canvas of this night the secrets that two constellations keep. My loneliness is white and cold as bone, but once there was a pair of deep brown eyes. What words suffice when years and years have flown? Yet in that tender dawn, I might have known a gentle touch, the warmth of arms and thighs. My loneliness is white and cold as bone. We might have honored night and shared a home. I might have smoothed your forehead, soothed your cries. What words suffice when years and years have flown? The miracle of insight, like a stone, still gleams between us, sorrowful and wise. My loneliness is white and cold as bone. But every morning, though I wake alone, sweet half-forgotten echoes make reprise. What words suffice when years and years have flown? Awash, adrift, I tangle in this poem, a raveled web of what ifs, no's, and whys. My loneliness is white and cold as bone. What words suffice when most of life has flown? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alyssa. And please join us again.
Thanks.
And our next open mic reader is George Witte.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you. Thank you, Anton, for inviting me to join. This is a poem about a friend of my mom's from long ago who really spent most of her life caring for her sister. It's called Devotion. A knife went missing from the butcher block. I worry that it's hidden in her room. Behind the door, she's listening because some nights she tiptoes through the house to steal whatever's sharp and watches me react. There's no one left to care for her. I can't afford or bear a state facility and promised Papa I would take her in when he declined if she lived long enough. Once she got to screaming something awful. It sounded like the devil loose in there. I knocked and shouted, "Madeline." The knob felt hot as if she dropped a cigarette and lift the curtains off. But she replied, so calm and cool, you'd think that nothing's wrong. "I'm singing, Rose. It's just a hymn I like." She'll say the damnedest things and who knows why. Could be she notions more than she lets on. I never married, didn't need a man to tell me what to do or fry his steak. But as that useless priest reminded me, you need a cross to consecrate your life, so hers is mine. And if I pass on first, or she kills both of us with foolishness, will anyone remember who we were, or wonder what required me as a bride to give away in fear and innocence?
Thank you, George. Thank you. I am now delighted to introduce our second feature reader, Irina Mashinski. Irina Mashinski was born and raised in Moscow. She graduated from Moscow University, where she studied theory of landscape and completed her PhD in paleoclimatology. In 1991, she immigrated to the United States, where she taught high school mathematics, as well as Russian culture at several universities. Mashinski is the author of The Naked World from Mad Hat Press, 2022, and Giornata from Savannah Barbara Press, also 2022, and of 11 books of poetry and essays in Russian. She is co-editor with Robert Chandler and Boris Draluk of the Penguin Book of Russian Poetry that came out in 2015 from Penguin Classics, and of Cardinal Poems, the Journal of Brown University's Slavic Department. Her work has been translated into several languages and has appeared in journals and anthologies in the US and internationally. Welcome, Irina Mashinski.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Anton, and thank you, Marcia and Arthur. It's great to become part of this series. So I am going to read as 10 minutes, as I was instructed, from this book, The Naked World, that just came out. It's prose and poetry interwoven, and just released Giornata, which is a collection of my poems in translations by two translators, Boris Draluk and Maria Blostein. So I am implicitly presenting this as well, but I'm going to read poems that, except for one, were written originally in English. There were no translations, and I will just notify you when they're not. The first one is titled An Attempt to Explain. So it's an attempt to explain why one leaves one's realm, the land where her language is spoken. And there is an image of an old projector on a card, which evokes the sun, and the rising sun evokes this projector, which is a very Soviet thing. And some of you who are from the Soviet Union may be familiar with this. Not even a concept, with this phenomenon of showing a film on the screen, which is a bed sheet that is hanging between two trees. An attempt to explain. At dawn, someone hangs a sky like a worn-out, wrinkled screen on the village's far end. The old projector rolls in from the east on its heavy cart, and I walk through the tall grass of Russian syllables, where colons and commas are abundant in June, and syntax is vague on ladybug's wings. I will settle nowhere else, wouldn't settle for less. Trust me, nothing would ever suffice. But how do I explain how I dread the expression on my motherland's face? So this is one myth of a motherland. And the next poem is the one that was translated by Maria Blostein. It's called A Barren Wasteland. It's a right-of-way image which became so relevant these days, but it was written before the war, of course. A barren wasteland lies mid one-eyed Sunday huts. Fierce Sunday sunset burns. The distant skies are dust. My resurrected voice. A caustic right of way. Crushed blazing glass between two smoking towns. Awakes. Absorbs the tepid smoke. The next poem is titled The Russian Senior Building, Newark, New Jersey. Those who are younger play their bingo. Those older dance their tango, while the tan hallway rolls its carpet toward the elevator with no final flight. Stop. Those revolving won't all stop together as they would want, as we would, I gather. But look, no, seriously, I'm no coward. I just can't stand fluorescent light. All talking, stop. We just repeat verbatim. Remember, so sounds like artatum. These hawks are going vegan, and their descent is slow. I love them all. Look up and then, unfolding their otherworldly plumage, wings of matchless molding. In sunset dust, their feathers stiff, unyielding, lisp listlessly. The 40-watt bulb swings, a hallway prefect, while present turns into past perfect, and perfect weather rolls, unopened, westward to that shining, shining clasp. This was originally written in English, as I said, and this one, Guilt, has been translated by myself, rewritten rather, in English. It's an old Russian poem that I rewrote in English, Guilt. So I stood by and watched. You were unwinding, that endless bandage, and bloody stains, those bloody brown rusty grew bigger, and flashed more often. You were weeping so silently. What could I do? I stood and gazed at that descending cloud of gauze. It ended suddenly. The end slipped off. There was no wound. And the next one is titled Between a Willow and a Birch Tree. So you see that there are two languages are compared to two trees, and it's easy to understand which one is which for Chard and Yord. November wind sways you, bewildered, lost, between two languages, one a birch tree and one a willow. And you, betrothed to one, betray the other. Stand barren, bitter, on the vast plain between two trunks, each outside your reach, not daring to touch the bark where blood drums under, in consonants, in vowels, in veils of anvil clouds, long, wet, and heavy trench coats covered in icy crust. You stand between your people and people not yours, between man and woman, not knowing who you are, where, will be, birch or willow, bewitched to the weeping endings of one and of the other, translucent past tenses, so effortlessly peeling off. So in the last two poems, the first one is titled The Border. There are many borders here, of course, in this naked world, and it's dedicated to my daughter, Sasha. So we are leaving the Soviet Union 2 months before the Soviet Union collapses. I flew over Norway. I had lived in a cage, a landscape of frost-covered wires, and then broke free, flew away, saw fjords, and lost fear. Cliffs shone pure slate, their after-rain luster. When I flew over Norway, I was finally out, and you were 5. You slept on the woolen sleeve of my Moscow winter coat in the bliss of the stratosphere. Just think, I can walk, hear whispers, see hues, the way dry leaves fall with a hollow sound of clapping hands into empty symphony hall, as my limbs, my eyelashes, and the lines of a poem are free to flow over me, not bound anymore by my eyelids, nor by the gates of that thirst for the border below. How it gleams in twilight, the rim of a forest lake, moraine, ragged edge. And the last poem I read is actually, so this one, of course, was written in English, and the last one is a variation, is a free translation, free rendering of a very famous Soviet song that was written by the lyrics by Rasul Gamzatov, a Dagestan poet. They were written in Avar, which is the language in Dagestan. I translated obviously from a very good Russian translation, which was the song in the 60s and the 70s. And it's stripped of any ethnicity, any ethnic connection, it's anonymous, it's an epic elegy, as it is, I think. A song from Dagestan, or sometimes it's titled Crane. Sometimes I think that soldiers who have never come back to us from the blood-covered plains escaped the ground and didn't cross the river, but turned instead into white screeching cranes. And since that time, the flock is flying narrow or wide or long, and maybe that is why so often and with such a sudden sorrow, we stop abruptly, staring at the sky. On flies the wedge, trespassing every border, a sad formation, ranks of do, re, mi. And there is a gap in their open order. It is the space they have reserved for me. The day will come. Beneath an evening cloud, I'll fly. Crane on my right, crane on my left. And in a voice like theirs, shrill and loud, call out to those on earth I've left. So thank you. So these are the two books that Anton suggested that I write put the links to the places where they can be ordered. I will do that in the chat.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for this wonderful, beautiful reading, Irina. So appreciate it. Please unmute yourself so we can applaud and thank Irina.
Thank you, Irina.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, please let us know how to order the books. All right, and our next open mic reader is Harvey Soss.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is called The Wrestlers. One would think that they were an estranged couple looking to power through a lawyerless divorce, given the manner in which they circle around each other. They're grabbing at arms and legs, a tug of war. Children, marital assets, all up for grabs. A curator of antiquities might tell us unnecessarily that this pair of wrestlers, ears likely cauliflowered for lack of proper headgear, weren't engaged in a love match. The tension between them palpable, if unspoken. Remaining unbroken despite hairline cracks in their attic, black figure amphora, snagged by lobster nets dragged beside a sunken trireme, dated roughly 530 to 525 BCE. Just the sort of find the British Museum, playing hide and seek, shouts Eureka for. See how these two grip each other existentially, none of their fierceness having been diminished by time or by the sandpaper scrapings of a Aegean sea salt. I expect that the tide of combat with its throws and falls must have had an ebb and flow like that of the sea, neither contestant with any obvious superiority, matched equally as the fabric strips of Velcro. Each in this Loveridge marriage as necessary to the other's success as the dipoles of a hook and loop fastener, exhibiting that oppositional behavior, sometimes mistaken for attraction, of Jacob and the angel, Jonah and the whale, Spartan v. Athenian. The ripping sound of imminent separation having frozen in place while paint dried on their clay during their time in the ring, we are left to wonder what, if anything, was whispered between MacGuffins and the clinches. Insults or perhaps the compliments hydrogen paid to oxygen when making water. Uncertain whether, when final push comes to shove, with one amphora combatant's shoulders pinned to the mat, the winner will give the loser, Spartan, Athenian, a sporting pat on the back, some promotional gesture, the latter praying to Palestra, Greek goddess of wrestling, for a rematch before another 2,500 years have passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. And the next open mic reader is Sarai.
Thank you. So I think this poem is sort of about a shadow family or an imagined family. And it's in that Strapless Bra in Heaven, which was published right before lockdown. So there you go. 6 ants wobbling. Slim Aunt Shirley went home, and straight Aunt Jin wiped her furred lips beer mustache, something I sport now and then, but not her bosoms. Queer Aunt Denise, who is not Denise, my dyke aunt, summoned the spirit of my aunt passed over. Tilly, with the bad eye, she was a whip at cards. Poppy yodels before and after shots. Aunt Denise, who is my dyke aunt, partnered with queer Aunt Denise. She has the Tilly gift at cards. Poppy and bosomy Gin crossed ankles like fingers as they cheated and lied in the way of families. Both Denises shouted at Poppy, "Stop yodeling, you." She poured another round.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Thanks to the feature readers, as well as the open mic participant. The excellent open mic was a wonderful, wonderful reading throughout. So I really appreciate everyone's contribution. And please join us next month and next year. As an exception, we'll be having our reading on the second Sunday of the month. Usually it's the first Sunday, and it's always the first Sunday except in January, because the first Sunday is January 1st, and everyone will probably be still asleep by 3 p.m. So this time it will be January 8th, and the feature readers will be Alex Peppel, Alexis Sears, and Pat Valdata. So thank you very much, and see you next month. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year.
Happy Hanukkah.
Yes.
Be well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carmine.
Ciao, ciao.